In the previous few episodes, we've been looking at how to measure the quality of a trading strategy to allow it to be compared with other strategies, or to allow different parameter values to be compared against each other to see which is most effective. And to do this, we've been using a couple of techniques devised by Dr. Van K. Tharp, expectancy and the SQN, or system quality number. And I believe they offer enormous value when performing one of these comparison tasks that I've mentioned. And the reason for that is because ideally when we perform this type of comparison, we want just a single value to indicate the score of each parameter or each system. But where this single value type of metric doesn't offer much value is when we want to analyze our individual trading systems in detail to see what works well and what doesn't work well. And of course, this means that it doesn't provide any intelligence about how we can improve our trading strategy. So let's think about this for a moment. As we've learned in previous episodes that I've produced over the last year, trading is an incredibly complex endeavour. To become a successful trader, you will need to master many different skills, such as trade execution timing, risk management, the ability to overcome loss aversion. And if you want to manage third-party investor capital, you'll also need to understand concepts such as capacity management, plus much more. So clearly, all of these aspects that could be measured and scored all get bundled together into one single metric in the case of SQN, or indeed any other single metric like CAGR over drawdown or profit factor. And because all of these aspects of a trading strategy are combined into just one metric, it means you don't get the information or the intelligence about any of the individual aspects or components that make up your trading strategy score. So how can you possibly know what you need to improve in your strategy's rules? How can you know what you need to change in your trading processes in order to get better results? And that's where these single value metrics begin to offer very little value. They're great for high-level comparison reasons, but when it comes to self-improvement and progressing on the journey to becoming a more successful trader, they don't really help us at all. But don't worry, there is an answer. And getting detailed metrics about all aspects of your trading strategies is something that you can start to do right now. And what's more, you can get all of this intelligence to help you improve for free. In this episode and the next few, I'm going to be showing you the ways that you can gain this type of intelligence for your own strategies, information that will mean you can see what you're doing well, but also specifically identify those areas where you need to improve. So where do you find this information? Well, it's all on the Darwinex platform. And don't worry, if you use an alternative broker, that's not a problem. You can link your existing trading account into the Darwinex platform for free and to get access to a host of great metrics that I'm going to talk you through in these next few episodes. So let's take a look. So these metrics that I've been talking about are what are called investable attributes on the Darwinex platform. And you can access these by going into a strategy and clicking on the Investable Attributes tab that you see here. And then on this bar that's underneath, you can get access to each of those attributes. And I'm going to talk you through each of these in turn. And because each of these focus in on a completely different aspect of your trading strategy and your trading style, it means that it becomes relatively simple to pinpoint what you are doing well and what you're not doing so well. And that, of course, is the first step in deciding what you need to change in order to improve the way that you're trading. But before I go through that, I think it's worth talking about how you can link your existing trading account with another broker into the Darwinex platform. Alternatively, you might want to create a new broker account with Darwinex. But regardless of which two of those options you choose, the start of the process is identical. You simply need to sign up for a Darwinex account. Now, if you follow the link that's been highlighted at the top left of the screen now, that will take you directly to the Darwinex platform. And from here, the button that you need is this blue one top right that says sign up. And by clicking on this within a few seconds after a simple registration process with your username, email and password, you will have created your basic account. And as I said before, there's no charge for this, it's completely free. Now, by default, you're taken to the sign up page for a trader. But if you're actually an investor wanting to back traders, then you'd click on this alternative link here to sign up as an investor. But I guess because you're watching this particular video, you're much more likely to be a trader, so you'll just use the default form here. And then following registration, you'll get informed of how you can create a new account if you wish to, how you can link your existing broker's account, and so on. So let's now return to the Darwinex platform itself and start to take a look at some of these metrics. Now, the very first one I want to explain is what's called the Darwinex Score. And the way that you should think of the Darwinex Score is actually quite similar to what we've been looking at with the system quality number. And this is one single score that rates the trading strategy. You can also see the Darwinex Score here as part of the main attributes of this strategy. And then in the chart below, you can see how the Darwinex Score has changed for this particular trading strategy over time. It's increasing. Now, the maximum score possible using this particular Darwinex Score is 100. And so, as you can see, this particular strategy performs very well, with a current value of 84.2. But underneath this, you can see what the individual scores are for all of the 12 investable attributes that are measured separately against this strategy. And we'll look at each one of these in turn, some of them in this episode and some in the following episodes. But for the moment, let's stick with this overall Darwinex score. So this is a proprietary metric that uses the last 5 years of history of the trading strategy, or whatever's available if it's less than 5 years. And the purpose of this is to give an indication of the likelihood of future performance. And of course, the higher the score, the more this is likely to perform well in the future. Although, of course, I will bring your attention to the warning that's on the screen now in terms of past performance not always being indicative of future performance, of course. Now, like many performance metrics of this type, the metric is based on the return and the risk from the equity curve. So effectively, the Darwin's quote. And so as long as this equity curve stays in good health, the Darwinex score will continue to remain high. If, however, this starts to suffer fairly substantial drawdowns and the equity curve begins to reduce, then that will have an effect on the Darwinex score. So, although extremely useful and informative, the Darwinex score itself has the same limitations we talked about in terms of profit factor and the SQN. It doesn't give you that detailed breakdown of the different components and aspects of the trading strategy, as we mentioned earlier. But that, of course, is where the individual investable attributes come into play. So you can see here we've got the individual scores for each of the attributes for this particular strategy. And below here, we can see a spider chart that visually represents how well this strategy scores in each of those areas. So for the majority of the investable attributes you see around this side of the chart, the trader performs relatively well. And then here there are a few investable attributes that don't perform as well. And the one that has the most issues for this strategy is the capacity attribute. So hopefully you can see how beneficial it is to have access to these types of metrics, because it can pinpoint and focus in on the areas that you need to give some extra attention in terms of improving your strategy. Now, the first of these individual attributes that I'm going to focus on today is experience. And I personally think this is a really important one. Those of you that have seen my previous videos will know how much reliance I put on statistical significance generally. And effectively, that's what this attribute is all about. So if you have a strategy here that only has 100 trades, the statistical significance of that is going to be relatively low, and that will be indicated by the experience attribute, which will also be low. Whereas if you have a trading strategy that has many thousands of trades, it means that the statistical significance of all of the other attributes will be so much higher. And so a high experience score means that you can have a lot more trust in the other attribute scores. And so, if anything, this is possibly the most important of all of the investable attributes. But there is a challenge with the calculation of this metric, and that's that different types of strategy will naturally produce a wide variance of number of trades. So scalping systems that are trading many times a day will produce high numbers, whereas swing strategies might only produce 2 or 3 trades per day. And so in order to give a fair comparison between different trading strategies, a specific algorithm was required, and this is based on what are called D periods. And actually, each D period is signified by these numbers that you see across the top of the chart here. And the longer the distance between 2 of these D periods indicates how many trades were actually occurring during those times. So when the D periods are relatively close together, as you can see here, there'd have been more trades, whereas when they're further apart, the frequency would have been less, and so it took longer to achieve that additional D period of experience. Now, if you want to get more information on the exact nature of this calculation, you can simply click on the little icon that you see here, and then click on more information about the experience investable attribute. And this will take you to a page that goes into much more detail than I'm going to do today. So I'm hoping that you're just now starting to glimpse the value that you as a trader can get from these types of metric. And so we've just looked at the Darwinex Score and the experience investable attribute today, which means that in the following episodes we're going to look at a further 11 investable attributes, all of which you would be able to get access to by linking your existing trading account into the Darwinex platform. And once again, if you need a link in order to sign up for a Darwinex account, which is of course the first step in that process, then you can click on the link that you see top right now, and that will take you directly to this page where you can then click on this sign up button at the top right. So please do remember to tune in to the next episode where we'll look at the next few attributes, and until then, trade safe.